Ledger Stax has begun shipping to customers who pre ordered. The new wallet design was created in collaboration with the builder of the iPod and hopes to bring clarity and confidence to securing digital value. Joining me now to discuss and unpack what's going on here is Ledger Chief Experience Officer Ian Rogers. Hey, Ian.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm great. Welcome to the show. And I am actually very excited to talk to you because I remember when this product was announced, I think it was 18 months ago. And it was really exciting. We spoke about it on a show that used to air on CoinDesk called The Hash. We were all very pumped about it. 18 months later, it is shipping to customers who pre-ordered. Talk to me about what happened. What happened those last 18 months?
Sure. Yeah, we announced the product in December of 22 with the plan to ship it in March of 23. We did pre-orders. We stopped pre-orders relatively early because we were, we didn't know how many we would have when. And really the supplier of the screen had believed that it would be available and they were wrong. So we made a little mini documentary to tell the full story, with many of the suppliers and the CEO of E-Ink, talking about it. But this is a new technology. So this is the world's first organic TFT. So it is a curved display. In this case, it's an E-Ink display where the screen actually goes all the way around the edge and curves 180 degrees to the back on a 3 millimeter radius. And that had never been done before. And what it is, where most, your Kindle is silicon on glass, this is an organic substrate on plastic. So the screen is actually, plastic, where your Kindle screen would be glass. This technology has been around for 25 plus years in terms of, being scientifically doable, but it's never been brought to mass production. So, when we announced this in December of 2022, we had the devices in hand. The supplier was saying, no problem. We're gonna have you in market by March. It's ramping up. It's going. Well, that turned out to not be true. There were problems in the mass production process. So even though we could make them, they couldn't make them at scale and at a reasonable cost. So that's what we've been going through for the last 18 months, and actually more like 12 months, because for the last 3 months we have been in mass production, and we started shipping them to customers now 3 weeks ago, and we'll finish our pre-orders by summer and get them back on sale by late summer.
Talk to me a little bit more about the technology. I know in the announcement, also in the documentary, it said that this is the first secure touchscreen. What does that mean?
Well, so the screen itself is powered by the secure element chip. So to be secure from a digital ownership perspective, with a wallet, and the wallet can do a cryptocurrency, but it can also do things like your passkeys for passwords and those sorts of things. You have to have your secret, your private key stored in the secure element. It needs to stay there when the transactions happen. So the transactions need to happen inside that secure chip, and you need to approve transactions on your secure display. That's what it means to be secure. So there are other devices on the market which either don't have a secure element at all, or they don't do the transaction in the secure element, or they don't have a secure screen. So Ledger is the only device that checks all three of those boxes. But that also means that we need to power this screen with roughly the same chip that's in your credit card. So you have a chip that was designed for security, not for performance, and you're actually powering the screen with that. And E-Ink is a help to do that, actually, because since you only have 16 colors, you need less to power the screen than you would with a different screen. So this is the world's first secure touchscreen, which for approving cryptocurrency transactions is not only important, it's a must. We've always had that in the Ledger Nano products. Again, many competing products don't have that at all. And doing that with a touchscreen is what's never been done before.
Tell me a little bit about the future you imagine. There's this massive redesign, really, on the Ledger Wallet in this product. What do you hope this unlocks in terms of user experience, user acquisition, and building towards the future that Ledger imagines?
what we're trying to do, our mission as a company is to bring ease of use without ever compromising on security or self-custody. So the question is, how do we bring more people to self-custody? If you look at, depending on whose study you want to refer to, people somewhere on the order of 500 million people own digital assets, but there are probably, tens of millions of people in self-custody and probably 10 million people or fewer in secure self-custody, right? So our goal is to bring that number much higher. I think, we believe that, digital assets will be a big part of the lives of future humans. And we think if that's true, then self-custody and ownership is incredibly important, which means sovereignty for the user. And if that's the case, then security is paramount. You can't compromise on security at all. So the question we ask ourselves every day is, how can we improve the ease of use in that? Because, the wallets and self-custody has been either difficult or scary. And not only to kind of buy and hold, but also people want to do more and more with their digital assets. They want to use them every day. Or whether it's trading or it's identity, or we're all pushing toward more use cases of scarce digital assets brought to us by blockchains. But if that's the case, part of that is being able to not only own my value, but also be the person who can use my value and do it easily and securely. So that's what we are pushing for, and that's what we hope with these devices and really everything that we do. If you look at everything that Ledger has done, since the last cycle, we have been building very hard. Through the bear market. I think if you watch our little mini documentary, the 20 minutes, that it shows, how hard we have been building. But that's only part of the picture, because we've also been pushing forward our software roadmap. We have all kinds of software services in Ledger: buy, sell, swap, stake, our credit card, et cetera, which are all about trying to bring the usage of digital assets into people's lives. And also Ledger Recover is about bringing more people into self-custody with a very simple interface, right? And a simple and, less scary interface than, writing down 24 words and then stressing over, where you've put them.
What do you think needs to happen to make self custody more mainstream? And I ask this because you brought up a good point. People are scared of self custody, right? And it's because of how we live our lives in the world. If we lose our money on our credit cards, we know that there's an insurance there. We're going to get that money back. And self custody is not that. You really do have to take ownership of your own assets. Talk to me about what you think is going to change the mindset of people, bring them more into self custody, especially when products like the spot Bitcoin and ETH ETFs are being approved. Exchanges are becoming more, there's more regulatory clarity that are allowing exchanges to operate in different jurisdictions. What do you think it's going to take to make people want to do this?
It's a great question. And I think for us, we believe that the world is heterogeneous. You have custody and you have secure self-custody. For me, the dangerous part is everything in the middle, right? I think, let's ask ourselves, who are the custodians that we trust? And, exactly who are they, and how and why do we trust them and their security? There were many people that trusted FTX in the last cycle, and not only their custody on their side, but also their security turns out to have been a joke. Right. But many people did trust them in the last cycle. Also, every cycle you have people that are willing to compromise on security, self-custody, or both. And they usually use the phrase onboarding the masses as part of their justification for compromising on either security or self-custody or both. And we see the ruin that leads to in every cycle. So to me, there's only two options. You either have a very trusted custodian, and I think we have very few of those on planet Earth today, where we could kind of agree as an industry that there's a lot of trust behind that custodian, or you have secure self-custody. So all of this stuff in the middle, so whether that's an untrusted custodian or a slightly trusted custodian or a software wallet or a wallet that doesn't meet the three requirements that I laid out earlier, those are the things that are really to be avoided. So, but I do think that the future will be, heterogeneous. And so what we have to do is I think we have to improve the user experience. And I think that Stax is a a big step in that direction. Simply having a touchscreen brings self-custody to an entirely different group of people. I think about, my mom and would she really want to click two buttons with, her two thumbs to say, okay, that's not a familiar, user interface for her. So I think simply having, a touch screen with a big clear UI where you can see transactions. I also think things like clear signing, which we're working on now. So there's a lot of, if you're using your ledger every day, you're probably blind signing a lot of the time. And that's, that actually in some ways defeats the purpose of the security that you have on your device. I mean, if your device is secure, but you're effectively signing a blank check, you're just, pushing the lack of security to a different place in the stack. So I think we need things like clear signing. I think we need things like Ledger Recover, which, bring self-custody and a bit of peace of mind. With Ledger Recover, if your seed is recovered to someone who isn't you, CoinCover, who is our partner, provides up to $50,000 of coverage, which for many users is a great bit of insurance on their or assurance on their self custody. And I think we have more. This is exactly what we're focused on every day: is how can we make how can we keep self custody secure and not compromise on security, and then through improvements in the user interface and just the overall user experience, from buying your first crypto to whatever you want to do with it today, making it really easy to use. I don't know, if I could, I'd like to give one more analogy, which is, I did digital music for 20 years. And I remember the MP3 players before the iPod. I worked on Winamp, and there was an MP3 community before the iPod. We felt like we were a pretty big group in those days, although in retrospect, I guess we were pretty early and small, much like what we feel in crypto today. And there were MP3 players before the iPod. Most of them have been forgotten about at this point. But they did exist. But something changed with the iPod, where if you had an MP3 player, like a piece of hardware that played MP3s, before the iPod, it went like this. You had MP3s, you were an enthusiast, and then there was a little device, and you're like, oh, that's cool. Let me get that, and I'll put my MP3s on that. With the iPod, it was the first time that someone said, look, I'm not in this world yet. I don't have digital music yet. I've got a Discman and compact discs, but I see this digital music thing and I see that my friends have it and I'd like to be in that world. So I'm going to buy the iPod and then I'm going to rip my CDs or buy, songs from the iTunes store. So you really turned it around. And I think that Stax has exactly that same potential. I
So
think
it's
it's the
almost
first
like a cool factor.
I think it's also just a comfort factor,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, it's an ease of use factor, right? It's something where you can imagine someone who is crypto curious but doesn't yet own any crypto, having friends who have kind of given them the confidence to say, I want to jump into this pool with you, and they're at Best Buy and they can make a purchase and they can go home and buy their first Bitcoin, and they can from day one be in secure self-custody. Whereas the path to Ledger today is generally buying some crypto on an exchange. You watch your value, you become more educated, you become more interested in security and self-custody, and then you find yourself with Ledger. But also, I think the other thing that will happen is the use cases will explode. So the use case for Ledger used to be you buy some Bitcoin, you put the Bitcoin in the Ledger, and you put it in your closet. But now many of us are using our Ledger every day. My Ledger is not only what I use if I'm going to, if I'm going to mint or if I'm going to swap, it's also my security key for passkeys and 2FA. So, instead of using Google Authenticator or another security device, my Ledger is something I carry around with me every day, not because it has, tons of crypto on it, but because it's how I log in from a 2FA perspective, and it's much more secure than doing that same 2FA. It's actually both easier and secure than doing it with, say, Google Authenticator or passkeys on an iPhone. So I think that those use cases explode both within crypto, where we're using it for our social media accounts with things like XMTP or Lens or Farcaster, but also beyond and into other other parts of our lives where we need more security than cell phones are able to provide. And there's no path to cell phones becoming more secure in the immediate future.
Ian, I got to ask you about the price. I believe it cost just over $300. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I know that it is new technology. It takes a long time to make. You kind of took us through the journey. And so that's an expensive process. Any plans to try and drive that price down so that it is actually more accessible to the people that we're talking about?
It's a great question. So, right now we have the Nano S Plus, which is an $80 product, and we have the Nano X, which is a $150 product. So, you can get, and really the security of those devices is, from a security perspective, equivalent, right? So, from a user experience perspective, not the same. From a security perspective, it's excellent security on those devices. When we pre-ordered this product, it was $289. And now, because the screen has been difficult to make and more expensive to make than we had anticipated, the price that original supplier of the screen told us is not the price that I'm able to buy them at today. The device will be more expensive when we put it back on sale later in the summer. And we have some other plans for making ease of use accessible to everyone. It's an incredibly important topic, and we have more news coming later on that.
How much is it going to be when it goes on sale in the summer?
We haven't said yet.
All right.
But the pre-orders got a great deal.
Amazing. Well, Ian, thank you for joining the show. I look forward to seeing some of the products IRL, and congratulations on the launch.
Thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time.